Street Fighter 2 is the original, the father of all fighting games in existence. This game has brought amazing music, character moves, and iconic stages to the history of gaming and in pop culture, but nothing compares to the originality of the creation behind its characters. Each character represents a nationality and a style of fighting. In this episode, join us as we take you to the origins and inspiration behind all the Street Fighter 2 characters. What was the motivation behind their creation? This is a compilation of all the Street Fighter 2 characters. Without further ado, let me welcome you to the Fighterverse. Dhalsim got his name from an Indian restaurant called Dhals in Osaka near Capcom's office. During the development of Street Fighter 2, the early original design for Dhalsim has a striking resemblance to the Ganesha. Ganesha is also known as a Ganapati and a Vinayaka. It is one of the best known and most worshipped deities in the Hindu pantheon, although Ganesha has many attributes. He is readily identified by his elephant head. He is widely revered, more specifically, as the remover of obstacles, the patron of arts and sciences, and the diva of intellect and wisdom. A picture of Ganesha can be seen in the background of his Street Fighter 2 stage. Lead designer of the Street Fighter 2, Akira Nishitani, stated in an interview that the concept of Dhalsim's ability to stretch his limbs comes from the ripple zoom punch technique from the manga series JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This is reconfirmed in the comment section of Dhalsim's biography and the Street Fighter X Tekken Artworks art book. Dhalsim's abilities also resemble those of an Indian fighter in the 1976 motion picture Master of the Flying Guillotine, starring Jimmy Wang Yu. Like Dhalsim, the fighter in the movie used a yoga-based fighting style and had the ability to extend his limbs to attack. Dhalsim also has the ability to breathe fire in various ways. In earlier releases, Capcom USA claimed that Dhalsim's ability to breathe fire came from his consumption of curry, but Capcom of Japan changed this to a blessing from Agni, Hindu god of fire, and a later English manual of Super Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo states that the flames stem from his mastery over fully unleashing his Latin Kundalini energies in his training. Kundalini is described as a sleeping, dormant potential force in the human organism. It is one of the components of an esoteric description of the subtle body, which consists of nadis, energy channels, chakras, psychic centers, prana, subtle energy, and bindu, drops of essence. Dhalsim is often depicted with pupil-less white eyes. His build is that of a normal man who exercises and weight trains regularly, except for his abdomen and waist, which appears out of proportion and emaciated. His arms are also large in length, and he uses this to create an advantage over his opponents during fights, usually opting to wear them down from a distance. He wears torn yellow saffron shorts, held tight around his waist by a piece of rope, as his only clothing, as well as yellow saffron wristbands and ankle bands. He has 3 red stripes adorning his head, hoop earrings, and metallic bracelets, and sometimes also anklets. In the Street Fighter Alpha series, he wears a turban that he removes before battle. The skulls he wears around his neck are those of village children that died during a plague. Dhalsim's minimal clothing and necklace of skulls are reminiscent of the Hindu ascetics known as the Kapalikas, or skull bearers. Dhalsim's alternate costume changes his skin color, usually to a shade of gray or yellow, reminiscent of the ash that Hindu holy men cover their bodies in. In Street Fighter V, he has gained a long white beard as a result from aging and wears his turban rather than removing it. Dhalsim is quite stoic, serious, self-disciplined, humble, and also very stern when needed. Being a pacifist, he will never hurt a person more than necessary, or kill an adversary, even the evilest ones such as M.Bison. His pacifist beliefs also allow him to be a greatly loving father and husband towards his family. As an extremely altruistic man, Dhalsim fights mostly for the poor and oppressed, as he constantly tries his best to raise money for his poverty-stricken people. Dhalsim is aware that if he uses his power to harm, he may become evil, and frequently questions his decisions to use his powers for fighting. Furthermore, all forms of yoga are meant to aid personal journey towards enlightenment, and not to harm others. Therefore, Dhalsim is constantly concerned about his fighting style overwhelming his own principles of non-violence. Dhalsim has a more mature and less enthusiastic nature, as he regularly relies on his traditional yoga meditation rites to expand his spirituality and keep his inner neutrality in the face of emotional involvement that may compromise his discipline. Dhalsim always remains calm and serene. When he fights, he is always in a constant state of meditation, so he can focus on the opponent. He rarely speaks to his opponents outside of calling his attacks, and when he does, his words are riddles that leave the foe confused about his or her own being. However, even with all his spiritual discipline, Dhalsim's fighting style is generally described as yoga. Dhalsim is the original long-range fighter of fighting games. His intense training has given him the ability to contort and extend his limbs into forms physically impossible for a normal human. He can project his arms and legs outward in order to deliver attacks that would be out of the range of normal limbs, and he is capable of teleporting to maintain distance from his opponent. Dhalsim is from India. The Republic of India is a country in South Asia. It is the second most populous country, the seventh largest country by land area, and the most populous democracy in the world. Indian cultural history spans more than 4,500 years. During the Vedic period, the foundations of Hindu philosophy, mythology, theology, and literature were laid, and many beliefs and practices which still exist today, such as Dharma, Karma, Yoga, and Moksha, were established. The predominant religion, Hinduism, has been shaped by various historical schools of thought, including those of Upanishads, the Yoga Sutras, the body movement, and by Buddhist philosophy. Hinduism is a diverse system of thought, marked by a range of philosophies and shared concepts, rituals, cosmological systems, pilgrimage sites, and shared textual sources that discuss theology, metaphysics, mythologies, Vedic yajna, yoga, agamic rituals, and temple building, among other topics. Prominent themes in Hindu beliefs include the four Purusarthas, the proper goals or aims of human life, namely Dharma, which are ethics and duties, Artha, which is prosperity and work, Kama, which is desires and passions, Moksha, which is liberation, freedom from the cycle of death and rebirth, and salvation, as well as Karma, which is action, intent, and consequences, and Samsara, which is the cycle of death and rebirth. The initial concept of the creation of Chun-Li, female fighter to Street Fighter II, according to Japanese game director and character designer Akira Nishitani, is stated to be inspired by the character Tao from the anime film Armageddon Genma Wars. Armageddon Genma Taisen is a science fiction anime movie released in 1983. The movie was based largely on Kazumasa Hirai's first 3 Genma Taisen novels. The movie was directed by Rintaro, with character designs by Katsuhiro Otomo, who is famous for having written and directed the highly acclaimed Akira film. It's said Tong Pu, an antagonist from Capcom's Strider franchise, also served as the inspiration for Chun-Li's design. Tong Pu is a recurring character in the series, appearing in most versions of the first Strider game, and returning for its 2 official sequels. She is also the character with the most exposure in the series besides Hiryu himself. Tong Pu is the middle sister of the Bounty Hunter, an assassin trio known as the Kunyang Team, or the Four Winds. He acts as the team's leader. The creator of Chun-Li was Akira Yasuda, artist-creator from Capcom, heavily involved in the creation process of Street Fighter II. During developing Chun-Li, Akuma Yasuda had given her trademark robust and muscular thighs, which was said to emphasize Chun-Li's drive, to show her determination to push herself through her physical limits, to fight on even ground and match the male-dominated caste in strength. While composer Yoko Shimamura reveals that it was also done out of his personal taste for women. Akira Akuma Yasuda describes that in the first stages of her design, that pants were appropriate for her attire, for her kung fu style of fighting, but they ran into troubles when in the early stages of programming, the pants didn't fit in with the character. Akuma describes it as lacking intensity, and I quote, "If it lacks impact, once translated into pixels, it becomes meaningless." After several tries, they figured out that changing the pants to tights was the best way to go, thus creating the final form of Chun-Li's attire. Designer Eri Nakamura would later design Chun-Li's Street Fighter Alpha attire, which helped to further detail her developed upper body physique, and would be further basis for her character models in Street Fighter EX series. One of Chun-Li's moves in concept was said to be a back-flipping attack, which was well received by playtesters, since they considered the attack to be broken. This move was supposed to have made it into the final release, but was cut out due to lack of time to program it back into the game. During development of Street Fighter III: Third Strike, Yoshinori Ono witnessed the development of Chun-Li's sprite as artists began to expand the widths of her thighs, which were said to border on gigantism at times, but agreed that their thickness helped to add in greater detail to her character. Being a professional police officer and international agent of Interpol, also appears to evoke inspiration from the 1980s Charles Bronson action movie Assassination, and to the character Charlotte Cha-Li Chung, as portrayed by actress Jan Gan Boyd, who was the sidekick and on and off romantic partner of Charles's lead role, Jay Killian, as members of the Secret Service. The establishing portion of the movie shows Charlotte in a traditional blue shibao in a scene with Jay. Chun-Li's name is Mandarin for Spring Beauty. It is properly romanized as Chun-Li in Pinyin, and pronounced Chun-Li, despite Westerners commonly pronouncing it as Chun-Li. The Japanese rendering of the name is Shunrei. Personality-wise, Chun-Li is a resourceful and dedicated officer of the law, with a strong sense of justice, that rivals that of her father Inspector Dorai, as she is a strong believer of protecting the innocent and saving the lives of others. Chun-Li is a highly disciplined, seasoned, and courageous woman, and is on numerous occasions the voice of reason in many of the scenarios within the Street Fighter universe. As an Interpol officer, she takes her work as a cop with pride, showing content at what she does when she saves lives. Outside of her duties as an Interpol officer, she has an elegant, sweet, and feminine personality. Interpol is an intergovernmental organization, facilitating international police cooperation. Their work focuses primarily on public safety and battling crimes that take place around the world. Chun-Li, however, is not without her flaws, as she is known to be very competitive with criminals in Street Fighter media, and does not take kindly to those who insult her pride as a cop. There are also times when she is shown to have a fairly dense side to her personality, like for example in her ending of Super Gem Fighter Minimix. As pointed out by Nash and Guile, Chun-Li tends to let her emotions get the best of her while on duty. This has at least on one occasion almost caused her demise at the hands of M.Bison. As shown in her story mode and in A Shadow Falls, Chun-Li has been told this and she has promised not to do it again, although it keeps happening. Because of her devotion to justice, she often becomes allies and friends with other soldiers and cops. Additionally, she has shown great resilience and determination in pursuing intense crime organizations, such as Shadow Lu. Originally called Shadow Law, the Shadow Lu is a very powerful and deadly criminal organization that is responsible for dealing biochemical drugs and arms run by M.Bison. In her Street Fighter V arcade ending, a surprising trait was revealed, that Chun-Li is inept at cooking, averting her usual femininity like Lucia, but not to the point when the food becomes humorously bad, like the latter. To the point of burning her food while following cooking instruction, and Li Fen having to take over with what remains of the ingredients. Chun-Li displays her kind and caring, almost motherly traits in her Street Fighter III: Third Strike arcade ending. After rescuing Li Fen, she goes on to teach Kung Fu to children. Chun-Li was inspired by all the people she met on her journeys, and has made it her new goal to teach her new students about strength and beauty, as well as to help shape their future. Throughout the years of Chun-Li's existence, she has been portrayed by voice actors and movie actresses alike. In real-life acting, the portrayal of Chun-Li we have is actress Ming-Na Wen. Ming-Wen is recognized in multiple movies and series, such as Street Fighter. She has been known as Melinda May from the ABC series Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and most recently her role as Fennec Shand from the highly acclaimed Mandalorian series in Disney+. She is also in the animated series of The Bad Batch and the upcoming series The Book of Boba Fett. Next actress is Christina Lara Crook, Canadian actress. Debuting on teen drama Edgemont, she became most known for her roles as Lana Lang in the superhero television series Smallville and Chun-Li in Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. Other actresses include Gemma Nguyen. Gemma Nguyen is known for her work on The Jungle Book, Phantom Breaker, Battlegrounds, and Street Fighter independent movie shorts made by Rogue Origin Films on YouTube. I recommend checking them out. Let's start with Chun-Li's voice actress, such as Donya Yamamoto.
I am the strongest woman in the world!
She was the voice of Chun-Li in Street Fighter animated series in 1995. Next actress, Miki Fujitani. She was the voice in the Street Fighter 2 the animated movie. Yumitoma. She plays Chun-Li's voice role in the Street Fighter Alpha the movie. Leah Sargent.
Hi, I'm Chun-Li. Are you ready to go on the grand tour?
Voice actress for the Street Fighter Alpha the movie, Street Fighter 2 the animated movie, and Street Fighter 2 V. Next actress, Yuko Miyamura. Voice actress of the Street Fighter Alpha series, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, X-Men vs. Street Fighter EX series, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Pocket Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2. Actress Atsuko Tanaka. Voice actress of Namco Capcom, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Capcom Fighting Evolution, Michiko Neya. Capcom vs. SNK 1 and 2. Actress Mari Chitsukawa. Voice actor in SNK vs. Capcom and SVC Chaos. Actress Fumiko Orikasa. Actress of Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, Street Fighter 4 and 5, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Street Fighter Tekken, Project X Zone 1 and 2. Next actress is Laura Bailey.
Want to see my kung fu? I'll show you.
She did the voice in Street Fighter 4 and 5, Street Fighter vs. Tekken, and Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And last but not least, actress Ashley Birch.
Chun-Li reporting for battle.
Voice actress in the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. There have also been pop culture references. One of the other aspects we can recognize and admire from the Street Fighter creative team is their talent in the creations of each of the characters' stages. In Street Fighter 2, we can see the illustrated plane dropping down on China. This is the way we know we are in for a fight. The shopping district, Taiping Road, is Chun-Li's stage in the Street Fighter 2 series, a shopping street in China. It is said that Chun-Li first arrived at the scene of the shopping district in an investigation of a possible drug trafficking route, which ended up in a street fight between her and her adversary. Shopping district Taiping Road has a variety of shops in its background, depending on the version. To the left side of the screen, we can see a small shop that sells drinks, confirmed by the fact that there are 2 Coca-Cola crates in the back of the store. Near the small shop, we can find a person holding a chicken with multiple cuts of meat hanging from the ceiling. The sign that is near the meat shop is a warning sign for people to not spit near the premises. This is the Xiamen Meat Company, who is said to be a reference to the real Xiamen meat market. On the right-hand side of the stage, there's a small Shanghai-style salon. Between both of the small shops, it is said that the man handling fruits or ice is said to be a disguised monitor cyborg. A cyborg, also known as Shadowloo Monitor Cyborg, is a character from the Street Fighter series who was originally featured in the 1994 film Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, before appearing as a playable fighter in the Street Fighter 2, the interactive movie. Its aim is to gather intel from fighters from all across the globe to further Shadowloo's research. Taiping Road is an east-west seaside road in Shinan District Qingdao City, Shandong Province, People's Republic of China. It is also one of the first roads built in the city. Even though the Capcom team named Chun-Li stage by the likes of the Tapining Road, it is said to be based on the Shengyun Street. Shengyun Street is in Hong Kong, North Point, in a one-way street. It starts from Tang Shui Road in the east and connects to North Point Road in the west. Shengyang Street is known as Little Fujiang and Little Shanghai. The streets are full of vendors, and there are shops specializing in authentic food from Fujiang and Shanghai on the ground floor of the buildings on both sides. It is said that developers from Capcom are portrayed riding the bicycles behind Chun-Li's stage. We all recognize that bell-sounding rhythm that captivates your ears as soon as we enter Chun-Li's stage. But have you ever wondered who were the producers of that captivating Asian melodic sound? The music from Chun-Li's stage shopping district, Taiping Road, were created by the legendary music producers Yoko Shimomura and Isao Abe. Both were the main musicians and composers for the Street Fighter series. Shimomura's work can be recognized in many different video game franchises during the years. Some of Shimomura's most recognized works can be seen in the titles like Kingdom Hearts, Parasite Eve, Breath of Fire, and others. The first and most famous work produced by Isao Abe in Street Fighter II was the composition of the main theme for the character Sagat, including its unique time signature, as well as the original versus melody. And here comes a new challenger. Zangief is known as the Red Cyclone, who is a professional wrestler from the former Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, known as Russia today. He is known for being a large but slow Street Fighter character, standing around 7 feet tall and weighing around 400 pounds. Zangief's style and design has a beard and a mohawk, with hair on its torso and shins. He wears red boots with gold trims. Later in the Street Fighter Alpha 2 series, Zangief was given a red cloak, in which he would take off before his fights. This cloak was accepted as part of his attire in the 1994 Street Fighter II animated movie, and in the Street Fighter Alpha, the movie. He carries the scars from multiple wrestling bouts with Usuri Brown Bears and Kamchka Brown Bears. Zangief was part of the original lineup in the Street Fighter II, The World Warrior, which came out in 1991. The initial roster of the Street Fighter II series included characters like Chun-Li, Ryu, and Ken. Zangief is portrayed as a Russian patriot, proud of his massive muscular build and strength. Even though he may look a strong character from the outside, according to the Street Fighter II Special Championship Edition, Zangief is described as good-natured, with a great sense of humor and totally fearless. In Zangief's interests, he enjoys Cossack dancing and eating borscht, which is a soup made with beets. The initial concept of Zangief was designed by Akira Akiman Yasuda from the Capcom game development team. Zangief's prototype name was sketched as Vodka Gobalski. His appearance was influenced heavily on professional wrestlers from the late 1980s and 1990s. Two of the most noticeable and respected wrestling figures by the names of Viktor Zangief and Ivan the Russian Bear Koloff. Viktor Zangief was born on May 26, 1962 in Kazakh Soviet Specialist Republic, part of the Soviet Union. He was a retired Soviet and Russian freestyle wrestler of Ossetian origin who wrestled professionally in Japan, where he became recognized by his wrestling career and was the inspiration for the creation of the Red Cyclone himself. In October 1994, he left UWFI and retired from professional wrestling. Another great inspiration for the creation of Zangief was Ivan Koloff, the Russian Bear. Ivan Koloff, born Oriol Donald Berras, was a Canadian professional wrestler, best known as the first Canadian wrestler to hold the WWF World Heavyweight Championship. Berras was born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. In his early career, Ivan Koloff debuted as an Irish rogue villain character named Red McNulty, built from Dublin, Ireland, and wrestling with an eye patch. He debuted as the Russian Bear in 1967, a bearded villainous character built from Ukraine. His final match was against Bob Armstrong, in which Armstrong won on November 16, 2013, at Superstars of Wrestling 1 in Rome, Georgia. This was his last match after his passing on February 18, 2017. Both Zangief and Koloff legacy will live on for many years. I'm so glad that the Capcom team found inspiration in these wrestlers for their main character storyline. I can appreciate the details and time the Capcom team dedicated to create the Red Cyclone.
USA!
The original concept of Ken Masters is said to be made by Shuei Okano and Akira Akiman Yasuda. In the initial designs of Ken Masters, Akira Yasuda uses Beni Urquides from the Shikakui Jungle appearance as the layout for Ken Masters. The Shikakui Jungle manga was written by Iki Kajiwara. Kajiwara was a Japanese author, manga writer, and film producer. He is also responsible for the creation of Karate Baka Ichidai, which translated means Karate Master, where Ryu and Sagat origins are from. Karate Master is a Japanese manga drawn by Jiro Tsunoda and Joya Kagemaru, with the story written by Iki Kajiwara. The story was inspired by the life of the real-life martial artist Mas Oyama. Part of Ken's creation was also inspired by a real-life karate world champion named Joe Louis. Jay Lewis was an American kickboxer, point karate fighter, and actor. As a fighter, Lewis gained fame for his matches in the 1960s and 1970s. He has twice been voted the greatest fighter in karate history, having won innumerable karate tournaments, and has attained the titles of United States Heavyweight Kickboxing Champion, World Heavyweight Full Contact Karate Champion, and United States National Black Belt Kata Champion. Like Ken, Lewis was a blonde American who trained in a traditional style in Japan, then went back to the US to become a famous champion. Lewis also founded Full Contact Karate and became a world champion at that as well. In addition to his similar looks, Lewis was also known, as were many American karate fighters of his time, for using colored karate uniforms, including a red one. Lewis notably appeared on the cover of Combat magazine, dressed in red with a black belt. He challenged traditional karate ways and modified much of his original Shorin-ryu style, similar to Ken's modifications that distinguish him from Ryu, a traditional fighter. It is one of the major modern Okinawan martial arts and is one of the oldest styles of karate. It was named by Shoshin Shibana in 1933, but the system itself is much older. Apparently, when Ken was about 12 years old, his father, a rich hotel tycoon owner, thought that his son needed to learn about discipline, or his son would become a spoiled brat all of his life and try to leech onto the master's family fortune. In order to do so, the elder masters sent Ken to Japan to train under his best friend, the mysterious karate master Goken. At first, Ken was very hesitant to learn from Goken, wanting to go back to the United States, but later began to respect his master. He even enjoyed the company of Goken's adopted son, Ryu, since he had a foil to finally pull pranks on, although this got Ken into a lot of trouble. Ryu and Ken would later become best friends and each other's principal rivals. When Ryu was 23, Goken decided that both of his students had grown up to be fine fighters and decided that their training was over and could now leave the dojo. Ryu decided to travel the world in order to continue his training, whereas Ken was finally happy to be going back home to the United States after his years of straining his back for his master Goken and finally learning the meaning of humility. After coming home, Ken competed in many different martial arts tournaments held in the United States, winning most of them. Ken's personality is the complete opposite of Ryu's. Masters is stylish, unorthodox, and unpredictable. Ken Masters has a giant ego, in which he constantly reminds his opponents how great he is. While sometimes he might come out as super confident and arrogant, he is generally kind, friendly, a good person, and very easygoing, which led him into starting a family of his own. He is the father of Mel Masters and husband to Eliza Masters, which is Guile's wife's sister. He never backs down from a fight, no matter how difficult it looks. Starting from the original Street Fighter, it is said that Ken's natural hair color is as black as his long and spiky eyebrows, but he has dyed it blonde. In the original Street Fighter, Ken fought barefoot and wore yellow armbands without gloves, unlike his rival Ryu, who originally wore red slippers with sparring gloves and began fighting barefooted in subsequent games. Ken is most easily recognized by wearing different sparring gloves that are either the color of his blonde hair or red. Ken wears brown gloves in most other appearances. Ken wears a red sleeveless karate-gi, with a black belt with neatly torn off sleeves, similar to Ryu's, and it is usually seen in better shape than Ryu's, except for in the Street Fighter 3 series. since he can easily afford to keep up and/or own spares. Capcom has officially stated that a red karate-gi was chosen to stand out and to reflect his more flashy style of fighting. For Street Fighter III, Ken was supposed to be given new techniques, but the staff refrained from it as they found him overpowered. By the time of Street Fighter V, Ken's appearance has undergone the first major design change in the character's history. Ken's G-top now hangs around his waist, and he wears a black V-neck training shirt with several red linings in its place. He sports black sparring gloves and has his hair tied back in a top knot instead of hanging loose, which was grown into medium length after the events of Street Fighter III series, and now wears black ankle wraps with red linings instead of barefoot. For this game, Capcom wanted to differentiate these two characters' moves, since they have been seen as clones. He added, "Ken's more of the hothead. He's the one that's going to rush you down and be in your face. So his V-skill is a run move that can be used to constantly pressure your opponent." Ken was originally named after Street Fighter planner Hiroshi Matsumoto. Hiroshi is a Japanese game director, producer, and sound designer, one of the men who is credited for having created the Fatal Fury and Art of Fighting series. Hiroshi changed Ken's name to Mean Fist instead during his development. He gained his last name when toy company Hasbro got the license to add the characters from Street Fighter II to their G.I. Joe toy line. It is widely believed, though never confirmed, that the name was given to avoid copyright confusion with the character of the same name from Mattel's Barbie toy line, Ken. If there is one thing we love about Ken Masters, it's his 1980s Metal Glory Days inspired music. As soon as the round starts, the melodic tone prepares you for battle. But do you ever wonder who created this epic nostalgic melody that we all grew to cherish and love? Well, it comes from the legendary music producers Yoko Shimomura and Isao Abe. Both were the main musicians and composers for the Street Fighter series. Shimomura's work can be recognized in many different video game franchises during the years. Some of Shimomura's most recognized works can be seen in the titles like Kingdom Hearts, Parasite Eve, Breath of Fire, and others. The first and most famous work produced by Isao Abe in Street Fighter II was the composition of the main theme for the character Sagat, including its unique time signature, as well as the original versus melody. And here comes a new challenger. Jingles that would serve as templates for the company's future fighting games. Inspiration for video game music at the time was always a derivative of a popular song or theme. It is no exception with Ken's stage music. Here's an example of the similarities between Yoko Shimomura's Ken Street Fighter version. Now, let us hear the version from Cheap Trick Mighty Wings from the Top Gun movie soundtrack. Sounds familiar, right? Well, the composer has been asked about this and has stated it was not an intentional inspiration. Some fans have pointed out that Ken's theme song sounds similar to the Cheap Trick song Mighty Wings from Top Gun. I have heard people say that, says Yoko Shimomura. And I watched the movie before I composed the song. So I can't deny I may have been inspired subconsciously. But I did not go into it thinking, okay, I'm gonna make this song sound like Mighty Wings. It was also stated that Ken's background theme was originally intended to be for Guile's stage. It would have made more sense in our opinion, since Guile was in the military and the similarity between Top Gun's Mighty Wings song, but either way Guile's theme is perfect as is. We could say that they made the right choice. Other attributes from Ken Masters' origins can be found behind the creation of Battle Harbor. Ken's stage is located in the United States of America. It serves as Ken's home stage. It's in a port near a sleepy small town of a city county. According to local stories, Battle Harbor is said to have gotten its name back in the town's founding days when two men began to have fist fight of such proportions that it drew many of the citizens and even travelers down to the docks to see them duel. Since then, the place is known for having street fights nearly every day and is celebrated as a town tradition. Due to Battle Harbor's historic reputation, the port has seen even international guests and fighters from around the world clash on its grounds. Oddly enough, Ken's stage has a very peculiar similarity to a setting in the Charles Bronson movie, Hard Times. Hard Times is a 1975 crime film, marking the directorial debut of Walter Hill. It stars Charles Bronson as Channy, a drifter fright hopping through Louisiana during the Great Depression, who competes in illegal bare-knuckle boxing matches. After forming a partnership with Speed, played by James Coburn, there's a scene in this movie where two men fight in a harbor setting, being surrounded by people in boats identical to the Street Fighter's Ken stage. In an interview with Capcom, the creator Akira Akiman Yasuda found inspiration in movies and all media alike. Akira Akiman quotes, "I remember stitching together a few movies to make a presentation. Streets of Fire and Charles Bronson's Hard Time were the ones I used back then. Basically, movies about fighting. I really took the chairman's words to heart. Use movies, he said. So I took that to mean we should just openly plagiarize them." To make matters more interesting, the Zangief stage has a similarity to a scene derived from this movie. Another interesting fact about Battle Harbor is that the car-breaking bonus stage uses the same graphics from Battle Harbor. In Street Fighter II, when Ken is selected as an opponent, the map shows this stage to be somewhere near Detroit, Michigan. This is further supported by the fact that in the Street Fighter II instruction manual, it states that this stage is somewhere near a large lake, and that Detroit sits on Lake Huron. Other media have placed this stage in other locations in the US, such as San Francisco, which is Ken's hometown in various media, Seattle, Washington State, and even New York City. The voice of Ken Masters and its actors has changed during the years. Each of the actors has given a new interpretation and flair to the Ken Masters legacy. We will mention in this list voice actors involved with the growth of Ken during the years. We will start with Setsuya Iwanaga.
Hadouken! Shoryuken! Hatsumaki Senpugak! Ikuze!
He voiced different versions of Ken Masters, for example, Namco x Capcom, Street Fighter Alpha Series, Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, X-Men vs. Street Fighters, Street Fighter EX and EX3, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, Pocket Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Next voice actor is Koji Tubi.
Ha! Hup! Hadouken! Shoryuken!
He was the voice actor for Street Fighter 3, New Generation and Second Impact. Another actor's name is Go Yamane.
Round 1. Fight!
He was the voice actor for Street Fighter EX2, Monster Maesuka. Voice actor of SNK vs. Capcom, SVC Chaos, Yuji Kishi.
とっておきを見せてやるぜ! Oh!
Japanese voice actor from Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Street Fighter 4 and 5, Street Fighter Tekken, Project X Zone series, and in English, Ruben Langdon.
I'll show you some hot moves! Hey, I was waiting for you. Come on!
Voice actor of Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. He also was the voice in Street Fighter Tekken. An interesting fact is that he is also the voice of Dante from the Devil May Cry series. If you check on the costumes in Street Fighter 5, Ken appears with a Dante costume, revealing the relationship between the series. While his original voice was a reuse of the Ryu audio samples. Beginning with Super Street Fighter 2, Ken's voice was performed by Kenji Haga. E. Honda, also known as Edmund Honda, is one of the main characters from the Street Fighter II video game. Designed by Akira Yasuda, the character was initially named Sumo. As his initial name implies, Honda is meant to have above average strength, but below average speed. A very heavy muscular Japanese man weighing around 300 pounds and 6 feet tall, seemingly in his late 30s to early 40s. The developers intended for the character to be popular in Japan, but to also make Japanese fighting styles appeal to foreigners. Honda's Shikona, which is the name they gave sumo wrestlers in Japan, is mentioned as Fujinoyama, referring to the Fuji mountain of Japan. He wears his black hair in a chongmage, which is a traditional Japanese top-knot haircut worn by men. E. Honda dresses in a blue and white striped yukata, which is an unlined summer kimono used in bathhouses. The upper half of the yukata is folded down over the belt to leave his upper body exposed. Honda's signature move is the 100 violent sumo hands, commonly referred to as the 100-hand slap. His face is painted in the kumadori style of makeup, used in kabuki. The kumadori style of makeup generally consists of brightly colored stripes, or patterns over a white foundation. The colors and patterns symbolizing aspects of the character. Only a few colors are used in the kumadori makeup: red, blue, brown, and black. While this black is simply used to exaggerate features, such as eyebrows and the line of the mouth, the other colors are used to tell the audience about the character's nature. The red kumadori indicates a powerful hero role, often a character with virtue and courage. The most famous role to use red kumadori is that of the hero in Shinabaru Kamu, Shibarake Kamakura Kongoro, and has come to stereotypically represent kabuki in the West. Blue makeup is used to represent a villain, human or not, and represents negative emotions such as fear and jealousy. In traditional Japanese dramas, ghosts are often trapped by their attachment to such emotions, and so often wear blue makeup. Brown represents monsters and non-human spirits, such as Oni, which are demons. Though only 4 colors are used, there are over 15 different patterns of kumadori. Kumadori is worn symmetrically on both sides. Some patterns are used for several roles, as they have to come to represent a specific type of character over time, regardless of the play being performed. These styles are Nihonguma. This style of kumadori features 2 red lines leading up into the hairline, one leading off the eyebrows and one leading off the eyeline. This pattern is used to express quiet strength and hero. Sugikuma, the most well-known pattern of red kumadori. As seen in the Shibaraku on the hero, Kamakura Kongoro, its dramatic red lines represent the power and the righteous anger of the character. Mukimi-kuma, a stylish form of red kumadori used for young, handsome, and virtuous heroes. The character of Sukeroku in Sukeroku Yukari no Edo Sakura wears Mukimi-kuma kumadori and is the epitome of a handsome kabuki hero attempting to win the love of a high-ranking courtesan. Sarekuma, the style of kumadori used for comic villains. Though the kumadori is red, the lines used make the character look like an animal, indicating that they should not be taken seriously. Some forms of sarekuma make the character look like a monkey or a crab. Kugekuma, a dramatic form of blue kumadori, used to indicate a villainous imperial court aristocrat looking to overthrow those in power. The design used is very similar to that of a sugikuma, an impression of a kabuki's actor's face makeup preserved on a piece of cloth is known as an oshikuma. An oshikuma, as stated before, is an impression of the kumadori of kabuki actors on a piece of cloth, usually silk or cotton, created as an artwork and memento. Kabuki is a classical form of Japanese dance drama. Kabuki theater is known for its heavily stylized performances, the often glamorous costumes worn by performers, and for the elaborate kumadori makeup worn by some of its performers. Kabuki is thought to have originated in the very early Edo period, when founder Izumo no Okuni formed a female dance troupe, who performed dances and light sketches in Kyoto. The art form later developed into a present all-male theatrical form, after women were banned from performing in kabuki theater in 1969. Kabuki developed throughout the late 17th century and reached its zenith in the mid-18th century. The 3 main categories of kabuki play are Jidaimono, Sewamono, and Shoshogado. The Jidaimono, or history plays, are set within the context of major events in Japanese history. Many shows were set in the context of the Genpei War of the 1180s. The Namboku Cho Wars from the 1330s, or other historical events. Unlike Jidaimono, which is generally focused upon the samurai class, Sewamono focused primarily upon commoners, namely townspeople and peasants. often referred to as domestic plays in English. Sawamono is generally related to themes of family drama and romance. Kabuki pieces place their emphasis on dance, which may be performed with or without dialogue, where dance can be used to convey emotion, character, and plot. Every kabuki actor has a stage name, which is different from the name they were born with. These stage names, most often those of the actor's father, grandfather, or teacher, are passed down between generations of actors' lineages and hold a great honor and importance. Important elements of kabuki include the mi, in which the actor holds a picturesque pose to establish his character. At this point, his house name is sometimes heard in loud shout from an expert audience member, serving both to express and enhance the audience appreciation of the actor's achievement. Emotions are also expressed through the colors of the costumes, a key element in kabuki. Gaudy and strong colors can convey foolish or joyful emotions, whereas severe or muted colors convey seriousness and focus. In this episode of the Street Fighterverse, we talked about Edmund Honda and shared his brief biography. We learned about the painting in E. Honda's face and what it was used for, which were the kumadori and the kabuki. Edmund Honda reflects Japan's pride in sharing with the rest of the world a small insight of their culture through an outstanding Street Fighter character.
USA!
Producer Noritaka revealed that Guile's overall appearance was modeled after Jean-Pierre Polnareff from Stardust Crusaders. Polnareff has a muscular build and is above average in height. In addition to silver hair, he has a receding hairline and a tall flat top. He lacks eyebrows. Additionally, he wears earrings that look like a broken heart. In addition, Funamisu explains that Guile's name comes from Polnareff's arch enemy, Guile, though the mix-up was attributed to the development staff. Early drafts of Guile, designed by Akira Yasuda, included the modest yet vertical hairstyle of Polnareff. While the sprites were being made for Street Fighter II, the pixel artist jokingly stretched Guile's hair out to the side. After finding it amusing, the team decided to give him the classic Stroheim look instead. Rudolf von Stroheim is a Nazi officer who researches and experiments on the Pillar Man Santana. Guile's iconic sonic boom was called the Divine Sandstorm during the development of Street Fighter II. Developer comments indicate that this might be a reference to the character Wamu, who also uses an attack with the same name. His physical appearance is strikingly different from the many Asian characters in the Street Fighter series, with light blue eyes, without eyebrows, a chiseled jaw, a permanently displeased expression, and his most recognizable feature, a tall, flat top haircut. Capcom sourcebooks suggest that Guile's famous hairdo is styled with a special order army hairspray to keep it up, though he usually fixes it quickly after a match. Guile's all-American image includes military fatigues and United States flag tattoos on each shoulder. The image of the uniformed American airman is well known in Japan due to the number of United States Armed Forces bases present in that country. Guile wears Charles's dog tag alongside his own. The voice of Guile and its actors have changed over the years. Each of the actors have given a new interpretation to flare Guile's legacy. In this list we will mention voice actors in English only and live-action movies. First of Michael Donovan.
I'm just getting warmed up!
From the Street Fighter animated series. Second, Kirk Thornton.
What the devil's going on in there?
From Street Fighter II, the animated movie, Rob Mungle.
Hadn't you ought to be doing your homework or studying?
Jesse Kuntz. From Street Fighter Motion Comics, Travis Willingham.
I'll clean up this mess.
From Street Fighter IV, Street Fighter Tekken, Street Fighter V, and one of the most legendary actors of all time to play Guile. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a Belgian actor, martial artist, filmmaker, and fight choreographer. If there is one thing we love about Guile, it's his American military patriot music. As soon as the round starts, the heroic melodies prepare you for battle. But did you ever wonder who created this nostalgic melody that we all grew to cherish and love? It comes from the legendary music producer, Yoko Shimomura. She was one of the main musical composers for the Street Fighter II series. Shimomura's work can be recognized in many different video game franchises during the years. Some of Shimomura's most recognized works can be seen in titles like Kingdom Hearts, Parasite Eve, Breath of Fire, and others. As a fun fact, it is stated that Ken's background theme was originally intended to be for Guile's stage, Inspiration for video game music at the time was always a derivative of a popular song or theme. It is no exception with Guile's stage music. Here's an example of the similarities between Yoko Shimomura's Guile Street Fighter version. Now let us hear the version from T-Square Travelers. Guile's stage is one of the most iconic stages in the Street Fighter franchise. From the Street Fighter II complete file, it states that Guile's stage is set on the Air Force Base. The stage has some of his colleagues watching the battle, and an F-16 fighting Falcon jet in the background, with the text CAP RF512. The stage has 2 crates that can be broken. The story goes that Guile went to the Air Force Base while searching who killed his comrade, Charlie Nash, his only clue being the name M.Bison. In the base, someone challenges him for a fight, in exchange for information. In Street Fighter V, the Air Force Base appears as Guile's stage, being somewhat of a replica of the Super Street Fighter II version, now featuring an F-18. One of the most important moves by Guile is his sonic boom and his flash kick. Executed by charging downward, then pressing upward and kicking, the user performs a backflip, kicking his opponent harshly as he does. The attack is almost instantaneous, and the arc of the kick leaves a flash on its wake. The kick's speed. It is useful as a nigh impenetrable anti-air counter. It is also good for zoning, ending combos, punishing, and preventing certain cross-up attempts. Blanka's initial ideas were made by Akira Yasuda, very popular Street Fighter designer, who was involved with the initial character creations in the Street Fighter franchise. The initial concept behind the Green Man resulted from an early design Akuma had. The design was of an African man named Anabebe, who was said to be raised by a lion. Later on, after the release of the final fight, Street Fighter's first cousin had a boss character by the name of Damned, with similar structural designs. Capcom again approached the idea for Blanka's character in the Street Fighter II. The Capcom team even considered a couple of designs for the Green Man. They even included the idea of a masked wrestler, modeled after Tiger Mask, a Japanese manga series written by Iki Kajiwara and illustrated by Naoki Tsuji. Another interesting design was the idea of a ninja-style warrior. At the stages of development for Street Fighter II, Capcom changes the design to a large man with thick hair and sideburns, named Hammer Blanka. The Capcom team decided that his feral beast type of appearance was perfect. They felt the game would be dull with only human characters. The most important recognizable physical characteristic is Blanka's unique green color. Initially, Blanka's green appearance was attributed to his consumption of chlorophyll from plants. It also worked as a way to blend in into his jungle environment, a color change that as time progressed became permanent. When Street Fighter II arrived in the United States, Blanka's green coloring was attributed to a lightning strike during an electrical storm, in which Blanka and his plane were impacted by. As of that, having his plane crashed as well. In Japan's version, it states that the plane was brought down by the Shadow Lu with the purpose of killing a minister that was in the same plane as Jimmy. In Street Fighter II, Blanka's skin is yellowish green, but later versions of the character are bright green. Early Street Fighter II artwork of Blanka showed him having a pure green skin, despite the in-game renders showing him with yellowish skin color. Aside from his green skin, Blanka also has vivid orange hair. His appearance in Street Fighter II became his nostalgia costume in Street Fighter V. Despite his strange appearance, however, Blanka is in fact human. Even though Blanka has a mean-looking appearance, he is a docile, passive human being with a heart of gold, fond of his family connections and friendships. Blanka has a great relationship with the children from his village and loves his mother very much. Just don't get on his other side. Blanka, when angered, lets loose of his instincts like a wild animal, attacking his opponents with ferocity and predatory rage. As the series goes on, Blanka, while retaining his usual manner of speech, starts to develop a bit more common sense, which ironically makes him a more cautious-minded foil to the hot-headed Dan Hibiki. Blanka is Dan's best friends besides Sakura. Much of the history of their relationship is mostly unknown, but it is said that Blanka saved Dan at some point before his mutation. Dan always addresses Blanka by his true name, Jimmy. Blanka is also good friends with Sakura. Blanka, Dan, and Sakura had appeared in Street Fighter prologues and endings together. His dislike of masked men, as he believes good people shouldn't hide their faces, is also shown in his rival battle with El Fuerte, and also with his win against Vega. Blanka has a grand arsenal of devastating moves and special abilities. Despite being a charge-based character, Blanka's fighting style is based on speed and unpredictability. His unusual appearance and movement means he can often surprise opponents with the range and sudden ferocity of his attacks, most of which are various versions of his rolling attack. His jump is very fast, allowing him to quickly jump over projectiles and attack opponents before they can recover. In addition, his animal-like characteristics allow him to counter moves in unusual ways. For instance, in the Street Fighter II series, Blanka can avoid a high tiger shot from Sagat by simply walking forward, allowing it to pass over his head. Later games modified the rolling attack so that the weaker versions of the move stopped short, allowing him more tactical capability, as well as introducing other variants of the move to increase the player's options for approaching opponents. The series, as well as later games, grant Blanka moves that allow him to rush backwards and forwards quickly to surprise opponents, and slide moves such as the Amazon River Run that allow him to slip under projectiles and attack an opponent's legs. Blanka fights in a self-taught, animalistic style. However, Capcom's USA division originally depicted it as a capoeira technique. Capoeira is a martial art of Brazilian and African origins that combines elements of dance, acrobatics, and music. It was developed in Brazil, mainly by African descendants, with native Brazilian influences. When Blanka uses his signature attack, Electric Thunder, he crouches and emits an electrical current shocking anyone and anything it touches. Blanka is strong enough to generate 150,000 volts of lightning. In Street Fighter V, Blanka retains all of his moves from the previous games, and his Lightning Cannonball Ultra combo from Street Fighter IV is now his critical art, known as Dynamic Rolling. His first V-trigger is the Jungle Dynamo, where his special attack can roll his opponent directly, and his second V-trigger, Lightning Beast, can roll his opponents in electric fashion in both ground and mid-air. Blanka's origins are from the jungles of Brazil, the largest country in both South America and Latin America. With a population of over 211 million, Brazil is the world's 5th largest and 6th most populous country. It is the largest country to have Portuguese as an official language, and the only one in the Americas. Brazil's large territory comprises different ecosystems, such as the Amazon rainforest, recognized as having the greatest biological diversity in the world. Other Brazilian Street Fighter characters that are playable are Laura Matsuda and Shan Matsuda. Street Fighter's Hulk, Blanka, is one of the characters that opened the path for diversity in the Street Fighter franchise. Blanka's balance of strength and calmness have made him one of the most beloved characters in the Street Fighter series. We will start with the concept of Ryu. According to fandom, Ryu is influenced by Masutatsu Oyama and Yoshiji Soeno of Karate Master, also known as Karate Baka Ichidai. Masutatsu founded Kyokushin Karate, the first and most influential style of full-contact karate. When Ryu tells the story of the first Street Fighter in his backstory entry, it pays homage to the fictional story of Karate Master, in which Masutatsu takes his students to Thailand to take on the toughest foes. Originally created by Takashi Nishiyama, Ryu bears his creator's name. Originally, he was going to be called Ryuichi, but they shortened it to Ryu in the end. Ryu's name translated in English means dragon, and Sagat's theme is tiger. The dragon is synonymous with the sky and the spirit, also the yang affinity. The tiger resembles earth and matter, and the yin affinity. Ryu's fighting stance in Street Fighter resembles full-contact karate. However, Ryu was given a different stance in Street Fighter II, which was inspired by Bruce Lee's fighting stance in Enter the Dragon. Akuma made this change, as he wanted Ryu to have a pose that wasn't traditional karate. Manabu Takemura also played a role in Ryu's creation. He He wanted Ryu to symbolize a true Japanese martial artist. Takemura didn't like Ryu's thin physique in the first game, so he made Ryu more muscular. Ryu's hair was longer in the first game, but Akiman didn't find that hair length cool in his sprite, so he gave Ryu a shorter hair, which then became his default look. Regarding the appearance of Ryu, his most recognizable attire consists of a white karate gi, with the sleeves torn off, medium-length hair, a long red headband, a black martial arts belt, and bare feet. A choice he makes of his own, believing it to be more comfortable. In many of his appearances, Ryu carries around a large, white duffel bag, containing items important to his travels, such as clothing, plane tickets, passports, and local currency. Ryu's most iconic Japanese game voice actors. The voice of Ryu and its actors have changed over the years. We will mention in this list of voice actors in gaming only involved. Sadly, the first Street Fighter and the second Street Fighter, Ryu's voice is unknown. We will start with Katashi Ishizuka.
俺より強いやつに会いに行く。お前の本当の力を見せてみろ。
Voice actor for the Street Fighter Alpha 1 and 2, X-Men vs. Street Fighter EX series, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter. The next one is Soichiro Hoshi.
Hadouken! Shinku!
Voice actor for Super Puzzle Fighter 2, Turbo, and Pocket Fighter, Wataru Takagi.
Hadouken!
Voice actor for the Street Fighter 3, New Generation and Second Impact, Toshiyuki Morikawa.
よ試すか。受けて立とう。いつでも来い。
His voice acted Ryu in Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2, Street Fighter Alpha 3, and others. Next on our list is Toru Okawa.
絶
Voice actor for Street Fighter 3, Third Strike. And next on our list is Vincent Tong. Voice actor for Puzzle Fighter. And last but not least, Hiroki Takashi.
戦いの先へ。この道を。
He voiced in Street Fighter 4 and 5, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Asura's Wrath, Street Fighter Tekken, Project X Zone 1 and 2, and Super Smash Bros. If there's one thing we love about Ryu, it's his fight for your life music. As soon as the round starts, the melodic undertone prepares you for battle. But did you ever wonder who created this epic and nostalgic melody that we all grew to cherish and love? Well, it comes from the legendary music producer Yoko Shimomura. She was one of the main musical composers for the Street Fighter II series. Some of Shimomura's most recognized works can be seen in titles like Kingdom Hearts, Parasite Eve, Breath of Fire, and others. Shimomura's music served as a template for the company's future Street Fighter games. The Susaku Castle, which translated means the Vermilion Bird Castle, is a large feudal age castle located in Japan. The Vermilion Bird is one of the 4 symbols of the Chinese constellations. According to Wuxing, the Taoist 5 elemental system represents the fire element, the direction south, and the season summer correspondingly. The Vermilion Bird is a mythological spirit creature of the Chinese constellations. It is described as a red bird that resembles a pheasant with a 5-colored plumage and is perpetually covered in flames. Compared to other Street Fighter stages, the Susaku Castle is considered to be one of the most famous Street Fighter stages in all its franchise. The Susaku Castle is where Ryu trained as a child. Ryu's stage is on the rooftops of the Susaku Castle, being roughly around 33 feet above ground. Ryu's stage has breakable signs if impacted by an opponent or during battle. The signs have a reading called the Furinka-san, which translated means Wind Forest Fire Mountain. The Furinka-san is a popularized version of the battle standard used by the Sengoku period, Daimyo Takeda Shingen. The banner quoted 4 phrases from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. As swift as wind, as gentle as forest, as fierce as fire, as unshakable as mountain. Sun Tzu was a Chinese general, military strategist, writer, and philosopher who lived in the Eastern Shou period of ancient China. Sun Tzu is traditionally credited as the author of The Art of War, an influential work of military strategy that has affected both Western and East Asian philosophy and military thinking. His works focus much more on alternatives to battle, such as stratagem, delay, the use of spies, and alternatives to war itself, the making and keeping of alliances, the uses of deceit, and a willingness to submit, at least temporarily, to more powerful foes. The Furinkasan signs are only present on the original Street Fighter II, Hyper's Street Fighter II, the Anniversary Edition, and the Ultra Street Fighter II, the Final Challengers. A fun fact, the same message can be seen in Ryu's belt in some of his appearances. In some versions, bats can be seen flying at night on the Susaku stage. The Susaku Castle stage can also be seen on Street Fighter III, Third Strike, being Ryu's stage. The castle in Super Street Fighter II, Turbo Revival, appeared like the one in the Third Strike. A fun fact, in Super Street Fighter II, Turbo Revival, it featured the same Susaku Castle, but with a red-colored version, which was used by Akuma since they didn't have a stage for himself. The Susaku Castle appears in the background of the Street Fighter Alpha 3 as Ryu's Gengu Bugahara stage. The castle can be seen on the top of the mountains. In Street Fighter V, the Susaku Castle has the same Street Fighter II appearance, but with better graphics and design. It is said that Ryu Susaku's castle is based on Matsue Castle in the Shimane Prefecture of Japan. It is one of the few castles left standing in Japan in its original form. Matsue Castle is one of few remaining feudal Japan castles in their original wooden form, and not a modern concrete reconstruction. Built after the last Great War of feudal Japan, the castle has survived earthquakes, fires, wars, and other causes that destroyed or damaged other Japanese castles. The castle is a complex structure, built in a watchtower style, that appears to be 5 stories from the outside, but has, in fact, 6 levels inside. Most of the walls of the castle are painted black. It is a strong structure, built to withstand warfare, yet at the same time, it is majestic and solemn, reminiscent of the Momoyama style. The ornate castle architecture and interiors of the Momoyama period were a reflection of both a feudal lord's power and a new aesthetic sense. During the Momoyama period, Japan underwent a process of unification after a long period of civil war, and rulers like Oda Nobunaga and Toyotomi Hideyoshi built castles as symbols of their power. Typically, castles built during this period consisted of a central tower, or denshu, surrounded by gardens and fortified buildings. The dark interiors of castles were often decorated by artists, and the spaces were separated using slided fusuma panels and byobu folding screens. The ornate castle architecture and interiors, adorned with painted screens, embellished with gold leaf, marked clear departure from the somber monotones favored during the previous Muromachi period. The Shoin style, or a style of Japanese residential architecture that forms the basis of today's traditional style Japanese houses, has its origins within the earlier Muromachi period and continued to be redefined during the Momoyama period. Osaki Hachimangu is a Shinto shrine in Aobaku, Sendai, Miyagi, Japan, and is a fine example of a Momoyama architecture. According to the Street Fighter II instruction manual, the Susaku Castle is Ryu's dojo, where he lives and trains. The platform built in the outside courtyard serves as a fighting area, specifically for the Street Fighter tournament. This would also serve as Ken's secondary stage, since he also trained here alongside Ryu under Goken's teachings. This is also considered to be Akuma's stage, since he, along with his brother Goken, were also taught at or around that area. Ultra Street Fighter II, the Final Challengers, even lists Susaku's castle as Akuma's stage. We can see the Susaku stage in other franchises such as SNK vs. Capcom, The Match of the Millennium, Street Fighter Online, Mouse Generation, Street Fighter X, All Capcom, and my personal favorite, Super Smash Bros. As stated by Fandom, Dee Jay was conceived by American designer James Goddard, and he is the only character in the mainline series to be conceived by an American. While Super Street Fighter II was going to feature Cammy, T.Hawk, and 2 brothers who had the same design save for a head swap, Goddard felt that it would be redundant to have another pair of characters with the same fighting style, As a result, Capcom added Dee Jay in place of one of the brothers, while the other evolved into Fei Long. The Japanese team asked Goddard for any more ideas for Dee Jay, which Goddard replied by suggesting kickboxer Billy Blanks. He commented that a really kick-ass black character would be awesome, instead of someone who was more negative, which is what you tended to see from the Japanese back in those days. In spite of the fact that Blanks played a villain in the film which he saw him in, The King of the Kickboxers, he began designing Dee Jay by drawing a sketch of him and sending it to the Japanese team. He sent the film The King of Kickboxers by copying a VHS tape and sending it through FedEx. He designed him as a positive, fun character, implementing elements such as him being Jamaican, a fun-loving guy, and a person who is trying to jumpstart his music career while kicking a lot of ass. The idea of two brothers who had the same design saved for a head swap resurfaced later in Street Fighter 3 for Kung Fu twins Young and Yang. In Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, Yun's story involves him and Yang meeting Dee Jay in order to find out the whereabouts of Fei Long, thus bringing all four related characters together. His name is a pun to the term DJ, disc jockey, common in the hip-hop scene he is part of. Dee Jay has a large, muscular physique. He wears orange loose drawstring pants with black sides and yellowish-white lettering that reads Maximum, and orange sparring gloves. His hairstyle is a braided mohawk with the letter M cut on each side of his head. These letters were absent from his appearance in the Street Fighter 4 series. Dee Jay is also seen in the anime movie and some artwork with a Caribbean chain necklace. Dee Jay's pants originally said Mantis, but since his right sprite is a mirror image of his left, the N and S would be reversed, so it was changed to Maximum, which is composed of symmetrical letters so that it is the same even when flipped horizontally, so that his sprite would be the same regardless of facing. In Street Fighter Alpha 3, in his in-game storyline, he anonymously challenges and defeats Adon, another kickboxer in the rival Muay Thai style, with Adon vowing revenge. He eventually finds his true goal, Sagat, the emperor of Muay Thai, now fallen from grace and an enforcer for M.Bison, who does not take the cheerful Jamaican seriously. Countering by declaring that in this fight he means business, Dee Jay challenges Sagat and defeats the former champion, further adding to Sagat's depression over his losing streak. Sagat's employer, Bison, takes an interest in Dee Jay at this point, offering him a position in Shadow Lu. Dee Jay refuses, and when Bison deals with the rejection by trying to kill him, Dee Jay staves Bison off and leaves, unable to truly defeat the dictator while the Psycho Drive is operational. Dee Jay returned to Jamaica, and inspired by his battles, hums a new tune as he walks down the street. This catches the ear of a record producer, who immediately offers Dee Jay a record deal. In Super Street Fighter 2, now a major music sensation, Dee Jay enters the Second World Warrior Tournament to find some new rhythm for his next album. Though how far he gets in the tournament is unknown, he finds the rhythm he seeks, and his new record is a smash hit. In Super Street Fighter 4, Dee Jay's story role is minimal. Feeling restless, he takes a break from his music to test his fighting skill by participating in SIN tournament. Soon, footage of him fighting one of the Seth dolls is broadcast around the world. At some point, he encounters and fights Rufus, apparently because he believes the latter has an interesting rhythm in his voice and belly. In Street Fighter V, during the events of the game, Dee Jay is traveling the world to record a new album. He recently appeared on the promos in Street Fighter VI Metro City Shots. Dee Jay fights using kickboxing, a popular martial art in most of the world. Dee Jay, however, sees it as a form of dancing. In Street Fighter II V Retsuden, Dee Jay's full name is given as Donald Jackson.
Mexico.
T.Hawk is one of the tallest characters in the Street Fighter universe, standing around 7.7 feet high, next to Sagat, Abigail, and Hugo. He has strong arms and legs, which can attack and create great damage to any opponent. T.Hawk has his face painted in a traditional native Indian battle style. He wears a denim vest and pants, iron bracers entirely covering both forearms, thin steel armbands around his biceps, a cowboy-style brown leather belt, with a buckle and metal decorative tokens. He also wears moccasin shoes, or boots, and a blue and white triangular patterned headband, with a pair of white eagle feathers. One of them is red at its end tip, etched diagonally upwards from it. The accessories that T.Hawk wears in his head are a remembrance of his father, Arroyo Hawk. His father was the leader of the Thunderfoot tribe. The Thunderfoot are from Mexico. When T.Hawk was young, the Thunderfoot tribe was forced to move out of their land by the Shadow Lu. Members of the Thunderfoot fought against the Shadow Lu, but unfortunately lost their lives in the process, including Arroyo Hawk, who died by the hands of M.Bison. T.Hawk resides in the Monte Alban plains near Mexico. T.Hawk wants nothing more than revenge from Bison for his despicable actions and to reclaim the land that was taken from his people. The Thunderfoot tribe had also experienced disappearances of many of their people. T.Hawk took the responsibility of finding them. One of them, his beloved Julia, became Julie, one of Bison's brainwashed assassin known as the Dolls. Julia was T.Hawk's lover, living in the same village of the Thunderfoot tribe. She was captured by Shadow Lu and brainwashed to be part of the Dolls, M.Bison's assassins and bodyguard. They were completely loyal to Bison, acted and talked like robots, and they were high-ranking members in the Shadow Lu. Julie is partnered with Junie, who appear as sub-bosses in Street Fighter Alpha 3 series. She is the second oldest member of the Doll, being often consulted for advice by the other members. Julie is the most rational of the Dolls, but sometimes she appears to be ruthless, possibly due to having her memory erased multiple times by the Shadow Lu. T.Hawk is commonly brave, tough, selfless, noble-spirited, centered and fearless, but equally moody, cold, brutish, unemotional, and apparently unsympathetic. His lack of emotional display mostly comes from suffering and devastation inflicted by M.Bison towards the Thunderfoot tribe and their sacred homelands. Despite his externally hard exterior, T.Hawk is actually a warm-hearted, compassionate man, as evidenced in several of his artworks, where he shows unquenchable affection for native animals, who cites revenge solely on the purpose of rescuing his long-lost people and restoring his ruined homelands back to its former glory. T.Hawk is similar to Zangief in strength, but uses more calculated attacks. Even though he is a large individual, he can defeat many smaller, faster fighters with his devastating Tomahawk Buster. The move starts when T.Hawk ducks down and crosses his fist in front of his face, then rapidly stretches his arms out behind himself like wings, and jumps diagonally up, ramming his opponent in with his head and or shoulder. He also uses the Condor Dive. The move starts when T.Hawk quickly pauses in mid-air and dives diagonally in a roughly 45-degree angle towards the ground, with his arms spread backwards like wings. This move executes exclusively on the way up during a jump, thus cannot be performed while coming down. T.Hawk also uses the Mexican Typhoon technique. As T.Hawk grabs his opponent, he will catch them by the head with one hand, leap into the air, and spin them around in a circle several times like a windmill, before slamming them down into the ground for a devastating impact. Unlike most bulky warriors, he does not like to grapple, but he can when necessary. More often, however, he uses the swooping aerial attacks that are also at his disposal. T.Hawk's background in the Super Street Fighter 2 game is a real-life location. Its location is said to be inspired by the Hospicio Cabañas in Guadalajara, Mexico. It's a World Heritage Site, is one of the oldest and largest hospital complexes in the Americas. The complex was founded in 1791 by the Bishop of Guadalajara in order to combine the functions of a workhouse, hospital, orphanage, and almshouse. It owes its name to Juan Ruiz de Cabañas, who was appointed to the see of Guadalajara in 1796, and engaged Manuel Tolsa, a renowned architect from Mexico City, to design the structure. Tolsa's design was based on classic examples such as Les Invalides in Paris and El Escorial near Madrid. The buildings form a rectangle, measuring 538 by 476 feet. These are single-story structures, which are 25 feet in height. The chapel is twice as high and has a dome rising to 107 feet. The complex is erected on one level, so as to facilitate the movement of the sick, the aged, and the children. We all recognize that sounding rhythm that captivates your ears as soon as we enter T.Hawk's stage. But have you ever wondered who was the producer of that legendary Western style of music? The music from T.Hawk's Hospicio Cabañas stage in Mexico was created by the legendary music producer Isao Abe. He was one of the main musicians and composers for the Street Fighter series. The first and most famous work produced by Isao Abe in Street Fighter 2 was the composition of the main theme for the character Sagat, including its unique time signature, as well as the original verse's melody. It is said that the name of T.Hawk's theme, Eye of the Eagle, was inspired by Survivor's 1982 hit song, Eye of the Tiger. T.Hawk, as stated before, is from Mexico. Mexico is a country in the southern portion of North America. It is bordered to the north by the United States, to the south and west by the Pacific Ocean, to the southeast by Guatemala, Belize, and the Caribbean Sea, and to the east by the Gulf of Mexico. It is home to the Aztec Empire of the Triple Alliance, Náhuatl City-states, Mexico, Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan. These three city-states ruled the area in and around the Valley of Mexico.
England.
Cammy White, second female character from the Street Fighter series. Her first appearance being in Super Street Fighter II: The New Challengers. Codename Killer Bee. The initial concept of Cammy was to create a contrast to her other female counterpart, Chun-Li. The creator of Cammy, Akira Akiman Yasuda, modeled her design on the assassin Misty, who appears in Wounded Man, a Japanese manga from the 1980s. The design of Cammy's arm protectors are based on the displays on the Masamune Shiro's Appleseed. Appleseed is an anime series that merges elements of the cyberpunk and mecha genres with politics, philosophy, and sociology. The series spans 4 volumes, released between 1985 and 1989. Cammy is a strong, forceful, and determined young woman with a firm sense of justice, who is extremely polite, friendly, respectful, and enthusiastic towards those whom she knows and cares about. However, she can be very brutal and sometimes condescending to those whom she dislikes, such as M.Bison or Vega. Cammy also has a strong sense of military discipline and stern honor. Cammy has light blue eyes and long blonde hair that she styles into 2 braided pigtails, a large forelock, and a scar on her left cheek. She has a muscular body with a very fit physique and is of slightly below average height. Cammy's choice of attire is a leotard, as it gives her high speed, mobility, and flexibility. Cammy's extensive training and abilities allow her to perform incredible athletic maneuvers and feats such as flips, as well as special attacks like Spiral Arrow, Cannon Spike, or Hooligan Combination. Note that the Spiral Arrow is also called the Cannon Drill, in which the character Cammy White lunges forward during this technique, spinning in a corkscrew manner with her feet leading towards her opponent, performing a short sliding kick along the ground as she lands. This is apparent in her fighting style. Cammy holds pride in her speed and fighting abilities, as noted in her dialogue with some of the other characters. In Super Street Fighter II and Super Street Fighter II Turbo, Cammy wears her signature outfit, a turtleneck, sleeveless green thong leotard that consists of a Delta Red Triangle insignia on her chest. The Delta Red Triangle insignia is the badge of Cammy's Special Force unit, in which she is part of, with headquarters set in the United Kingdom. The group is active in a wide range of fields, including searching criminals on a global scale, protecting important people, maintaining security, and reconnaissance. Only the most elite soldiers are selected to join Delta Red, and each team is made up of 4 to 5 members. The members of her group are Keith Wolfman, the team leader, Lita Luwanda, bladed weapons expert, Matthew McCoy, heavy weapons specialist, George Jinzu, computer expert and hacker, Hannah Ackerson, team lieutenant and strategist, Shiba Shintaro, collaborator, Simone, mercenary. She also wears a red beret, red socks, black calf-high combat boots, and red gauntlets. Her legs were decorated with marks of green camouflage paint. This classic incarnation is known as Delta Red Cammy. One of the earlier drafts of Cammy's character design was her wearing a harness and a gun holster, details in which were eventually incorporated into her Street Fighter V default design. She was, at one time, a deadly clone assassin that was working for Shadowloo before breaking free and becoming an M16 operative for the British government. In her early story, starting from the Street Fighter Alpha series, her birthplace and history were unknown. She was a soulless person who seemingly broke free of her brainwashing and traveled the world to find out the truth. Eventually she faced M.Bison, and she asked him what her purpose was in life. He told Cammy that she was to serve him, although he realized that Cammy became much stronger during her journey. Cammy wins her battle against M.Bison, but is hit by a bolt of electric current and knocked down. Once again, she is brainwashed to erase her memories of whatever discovery she made during her journey. Later in the Street Fighter series, Cammy was sent to assassinate Dhalsim. Dhalsim used his spiritual powers to make her self-aware, and she realized that Shadowloo was controlling her. Cammy confronted Bison. He told her that she was meant to become his next body, after his current physical manifestation was destroyed by his own psycho power. M.Bison explained to Cammy that she was a clone of himself, who possessed a small portion of his psycho power, and that if he were to die, she would die as well. In the Super Street Fighter 2 series, Cammy awoke with amnesia, and Delta Red took her in. While she could not remember her past, she retained nearly all the fighting capabilities that were implanted in her during her tenure with the Shadow Lu. This made her a very valuable asset to the team. The Second World Warrior Tournament was announced, and discovering that M.Bison was part of it, Cammy felt a strange connection to him and entered the tournament. She confronted Bison, who told her that she is a copy of him, that he planted her in Delta Red, but didn't count on her losing her memories, and that he had no further use of her. She later joined the battle against Bison, along with her allies when the tournament ended. After Bison was defeated, her Delta Red teammates told her that she didn't need to live in the past. In this part of the video, we would like to recall some facts about Cammy that you might find interesting. Cammy's alternate horror costume, a nod to her codename Killer Bee in Ultra Street Fighter 4, has a strong resemblance to QB from the Darkstalkers game, also made by Capcom. Another random fact is that Cammy is among the 2 characters in the Super Street Fighter 4 who have been given a counter Ultra, the QCQ, Cammy's quick combination, with other characters being Fei Long, whose counter Ultra is the Geikiriging. Cammy is the second playable female character in the Street Fighter series, and currently the only one to represent the United Kingdom. Cammy White is indeed one Street Fighter character who, after all of her adversity, still has the courage to fight for freedom and justice.
Hong Kong.
A youthful and talented man from Hong Kong, Fei Long, began training in Kung Fu from the age of 6, eventually developing his own form, and fought on the streets to sharpen his skills, until he caught the eye of a movie director who got him into the movie business. Fei Long was Capcom's homage to the Wing Chun and Jeet Kune Do martial arts master Bruce Lee. Lee Jun-fan, commonly known as Bruce Lee, was a Chinese-American martial artist, actor, director, martial arts instructor, and philosopher. He was the founder of the Jeet Kune Do, a hybrid martial arts philosophy, drawing from the different combat disciplines that is often credited with paving the way for modern mixed martial arts, also known as MMA. Lee is considered by critics, media, and other martial artists to be the most influential martial artist of all time, and a pop culture icon of the 20th century, who bridged the gap between East and West. He is credited with helping to change the way Asians were presented in American films. Son of Cantonese opera star Lee Hoi-shuen, Lee was born in the Chinatown area of San Francisco on November 27, 1940, to parents from Hong Kong, and was raised with his family in Kowloon, Hong Kong. He was introduced to the film industry by his father, and appeared in several films as a child actor. His early martial arts experience included Wing Chun, Tai Chi, street fighting, and boxing, winning the Hong Kong School's boxing tournament. In the 1970s, his Hong Kong and Hollywood-produced films elevated the traditional martial arts film to a new level of popularity and acclaim, sparking a surge of interest in the Chinese nation and Chinese martial arts in the West. The direction and tone of his films dramatically influenced and changed martial arts and martial arts films worldwide. He is noted for his roles in 5 feature-length martial arts films in the early 1970s. Lo Wei's The Big Boss in 1971, Fist of Fury in 1972, Golden Harvest: Way of the Dragon in 1972, directed and written by Lee, Warner Brothers' Enter the Dragon in 1973, and The Game of Death in 1978, both directed by Robert Clouse. Bruce Lee left a great legacy in the martial arts community. The similarity of the two is uncanny. They are both from the same city of Hong Kong. Fei Long also lets out similar battle cries to Lee, and is just as furious and fast. Also, Fei Long is Chinese for flying dragon. Bruce Lee's Chinese screen name was Li Xiaolong in Mandarin, and Li Xiulong in his preferred Cantonese, the latter 2 characters meaning Little Dragon. Fei Long was one of the earliest Bruce Lee-inspired characters in the fighting games, after Kim Dragon from World Heroes, and Liu Kang from Mortal Kombat, but predating Hong Fu from Fatal Fury. martial law, and his son Forest Law from the Tekken series. In Street Fighter X Tekken, some characters even mistake martial law for Fei Long in their win quotes. Other notable Bruce Lee-based characters include Li Long and Maxi from the Soul Calibur series, Chun-Li from the Dead or Alive series, and Long from Shuang Do Shiwang. Fei Long also bears a notable resemblance to Kenshiro from the Fist of the North Star manga and anime series. In his ending for Super Street Fighter II, he directly references Bruce Lee and his son Brandon Lee when he says, "There can never be another legend like the Great One and his son," although his reference is not present in the Japanese version. Also, a statue of Bruce Lee can be seen when the students are training. Fei Long most of the time is very serious, with a calm exterior, although he can be roused to anger. In his rival fight against the Bell, he is calm at first, but loses his temper when the Frenchman asks him for a fight. He is full of fighting spirit and takes great pride in his fighting style, Hiten Ryu, which he seeks to honor in all ways possible. He despises all that is evil. Fei Long also enjoys a good match. Although he is a famous martial arts movie actor, he still takes his time to appear at the underground fighting areas to find a worthy opponent to spar with, as seen in Street Fighter II, the animated movie. There are also times when Fei Long is shown to be a little cocky in many of his actions, and also win quotes against certain characters. Fei Long's fighting style is a form of Kung Fu, derived from Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. In one of his Street Fighter IV win quotes, he refers to it as Hiten Ryu. The Hiten Ryu is the martial arts style developed and used by Fei Long. It is a form of Kung Fu based on Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. Hiten Ryu focuses on a variety of acrobatic kicks and rigid strikes, which gives him a powerful up-close frame, trap and pressure playstyle that allows him to bob and weave in the neutral game with solid pokes, as well as to gap close if needed. However, aside from his weakness of lacking far-range attacks and projectiles, Fei Long also has difficulties trying to get solid conversions off of his crouching attacks. Despite some of these attacks, such as his crouching HP having solid range, since it cannot be cancelled into anything. He has two special techniques in his debut appearance in the Super Street Fighter II, the Rikaken, a series of rushing punches, and the Shienkiaku, a jumping flame kick. This technique is also referred to as the Rising Dragon Leg, due to its similarity with Ryu and Ken's Shoryuken, Rising Dragon Fist, and its similar input command. The Rekukyaku, a latter addition in the Street Fighter II games, is a technique in which Fei Long jumps towards the opponent with a spread kick. His super combo is the Rekashinken, a more powerful version of the Rikaken. Like Bruce Lee, Fei Long is native to Hong Kong. The Hong Kong Special Administrative Region of the People's Republic of China is a metropolitan area and special administrative region of China, on the Eastern Pearl River Delta in South China. With over 7.5 million residents of various nationalities and a 1,104 square kilometer territory, Hong Kong is one of the most densely populated places in the world. Originally a sparsely populated area of farming and fishing villages, this territory has become one of the world's most significant financial centers and commercial ports. It is the world's 10th largest exporter and 9th largest importer. M.Bison was designed by Akira Akiman Yasuda and Yuko Ikusan Nakayama. Both were very influential in the early stages of the Street Fighter game's development. M.Bison's concept and design were based on Washisaki, in which translated means Eagle Cape, a villain from the manga and anime Rikyo, created by Masahiko Takajo and Setsuya Saruwatari. Washisaki is one of the main antagonists in the series. He shares the same world domination vision as M.Bison. Another inspiration for M.Bison's creation is based on Yasunori Keto, the main antagonist of the Japanese film Tokyo, The Last Megapolis, which is also known as Teito Monogatari. Yasunori Keto is an evil sorcerer, wielding the power of several long-dead mystics, who wants to destroy Tokyo and cripple the Japanese Empire in order to fulfill a 2,000-year-old curse. Both M.Bison and Yasunori Keto look very similar and have supernatural abilities, which they use for evil. M.Bison's clothing consists of a red military uniform, with large shoulder plates, wristbands, and shin guards. The shin guards in M.Bison's uniform are based on the style of the Universal Wrestling Federation of Japan, used in the mid-1980s. On his peaked service cap, there is a skull insignia of his crime syndicate, known as the Shadow Lu. Originally called Shadow Law, the Shadow Lu is a very powerful and deadly criminal organization, managed by M.Bison and is responsible for dealing biochemical engineering and arms within the Street Fighter universe. As the founder and leader of the Shadow Lu, M.Bison uses as many illegal methods as possible to achieve his destructive and barbaric goals, ranging from drug trafficking to illegal human experimentation. His uniform resembles Japanese and Chinese imperial uniforms, with the color of the uniform being red. His uniform may also have influences on the uniforms worn by the SS officers from the Nazi Germany. The skull on M.Bison's visor and the first letter of the Shadow Lu on his belt is shaped as a single Zig runa. The Zig runa symbolizes victory. It represents the sun. M.Bison wears a dark-colored cape in the Alpha series, where he appears with his original body. From Street Fighter II on, and in the Capcom vs SNK series, he appears with a much slimmer body and removes his cape before battle. M.Bison has neatly cut black hair under his peaked cap, which he is almost never seen without. His eyes were originally red, both within and outside the irises, though the irises were still visible. After Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, they were changed to a complete ghastly white. His eyes will glow pink when his psycho power is glowing. In Street Fighter V, Bison's look has changed. Bison wears a trench coat over his outfit with the cape. His hair has also turned white, with the extensive use of his psycho power. The psycho power is M.Bison's source of evil, negative and psychotic energy. Psycho power has been described as the dark side of the soul power, a power demonstrated by Rose. The psycho power can be compared to the dark side of the Force in Star Wars, and Rose's soul power to the Force. The psycho power feeds off the fear, anger, and the hatred of others. This energy can also affect the skin, body, color, eyes, and hair of people, as shown in the case of Violent Ken and Bison. There isn't much known about the history of the psycho power and the users before the time of Shadow Lu, including how M.Bison obtained the secrets of soul power's negative aspects, except that it is amplified by negative emotions such as hatred, and that to master it, one must purge all good and light within oneself. It is rumored that in the past, M.Bison's master was the only known person in the world who could manipulate it. It is also said that, before his death at the hands of Bison, he passed the power to only 3 students, Bison himself being one of them. M.Bison has several moves in which he unleashes his psycho power. Those moves are his Psycho Crusher, Head Press, Psycho Inferno, and Double Knee Press. M.Bison also uses his psycho power in a variety of weapons which are Psycho Drive. In the Street Fighter Alpha series, Shadow Lu had created the Psycho Drive, a weapon that can be used to store psycho power for brainwashing people at the request of Bison himself. Beelzebub. Beelzebub is a satellite used by Shadow Lu that is referred in various supplemental materials. Shadow Lu uses Beelzebub to study Pandora. Beelzebub is also known to have orbital laser cannon capabilities, utilizing psycho power as a power source. Crystal Idol. In Street Fighter II V, the Crystal Idol seems to be energized by psycho power, and has a telepathic link to Bison's mind, as it can call out to him, allowing him to travel into a self-contained dimension, where every power that has existed beyond space-time is contained. M.Bison is an archetypal villain, motivated by his own self-serving interests and lust for absolute power through world domination. He is a megalomaniacal and psychopathic dictator and terrorist, who seeks to rule the world with an iron fist, whilst also being universally regarded as the greatest and most powerful martial artist of all time. and will readily destroy anything or anyone who dares to stand between him and his goals. Possessing a vast ego and god complex, Bison is physically incapable of feeling empathy for others, and even takes pleasure in watching people suffer at his hands, never feeling a shed of regret or remorse for the numerous atrocities that he has committed. In many ways, Bison's characterization is comparable to the clinical diagnosis of a real-life psychopath. Bison's malevolence and sadism are reflected in his iconic smile, a very wide grin that exposes not just all the teeth, but even the gums. One of the most iconic actors that have portrayed M.Bison in movies was actor Raul Julia. Famous for his quote in the Street Fighter, the movie, "For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday." This perfectly cemented the attitude of Bison towards everything, feeling lack of compassion or remorse. Raul Julia perfectly embodied the part of M.Bison. We, the Street Fighter universe, want to give homage to this amazing Puerto Rican actor, Raul Rafael Julia. Thank you for the memories. Sagat was created by Takashi Nishiyama and Keiji Inafune. The concept of Sagat is said to be inspired by a real-life Muay Thai fighter named Sagat Bet Yindi. Sagat Bet Yindi is a former Muay Thai professional boxer, Muay Thai fighter, actor, and trainer, who is considered to be one of the greatest Muay Thai fighters of all time. 3 times Lumpini, 3 times Rajadamern champion, and Muay Thai and kickboxing champion. It is said that Sagat Bet Yindi amassed a total of 317 Thai boxing fights, with 266 wins, 40 losses, and 11 draws. 151 of those victories coming by a way of knockout and technical knockout. It is also said that Sagat may have been inspired by the Muay Thai lord Reiba, a character from the manga Karate Baka Ichidai. Karate Master is a Japanese manga drawn by Jiro Tsunoda and Hoya Kagemaru, with the story written by Iki Kajiwara. The story was inspired by the life of the real-life martial artist Mas Oyama. Evidence can be seen in Sagat's Street Fighter IV alternate costume. Also, in his Street Fighter profile he is called the Dark Lord Emperor of Muay Thai, which shares the same title as the character Reiba in the Karate Master manga. The events that transpire in the Street Fighter universe mimics to the ones from Reiba from Karate Master, where the main protagonist defeats other Muay Thai users to prove his skills to Reiba. It is said that the co-creator of Street Fighter, Finish Hiroshi, states that the style Sagat uses is modeled by dramatic television kickboxing personalities, most of the time centered in the Muay Thai theme. It is said that Sagat's tiger theme is based on the tale of King Suriembodi, nicknamed the Siamese Tiger King, who competed in Muay Thai competition and was one of the greatest fighters in his prime. The concept of the tiger and dragon can be seen in Eastern Asian culture for many years. They have been considered worthy adversaries. The dragon is synonymous with the sky and the spirit, also the yang affinity. The tiger resembles earth and matter, and the yin affinity. This explains the relationship between Ryu and Sagat's rivalry. Ryu's name translated means dragon, and Sagat's theme is tiger. Pretty cool if you ask me. Sagat is a strong-willed fighter. He is proud of his Muay Thai martial arts, and is willing to go toe-to-toe with anyone to prove his skills. He is a hard-working, powerful fighter. His height and physical appearance make him a very threatening-looking character. After the events of Ryu's battle, where he lost and got scarred in the confrontation, Sagat drew power from the memories of his loss. His purpose later was defined by the heart of battle. As a person, Sagat feels deep guilt and shame for killing Go Hibiki, the father of Dan Hibiki. Go Hibiki hurts Sagat's eye, the reason as to why he wears an eye patch. Later in life, Dan Hibiki faces Sagat. Out of respect, Sagat lets him win, seeing how easily hatred can corrupt his soul. Sagat later in the series became a good guy and changed his ways. In Street Fighter X Tekken, he helps Dhalsim find and rescue village children. Even when offered the mighty power of Pandora, Sagat refuses, stating that a king like him doesn't need the power of the gods. It makes the children's safety his top priority. Pandora is the name of a mysterious cubical object that fell from space and crash-landed on Earth. It is the main plot point in the story of Street Fighter X Tekken. Sagat appreciates opponents that are worthy and strong-minded, while greatly despising people who take unfair and dishonest advantages in combat. His win quotes show him to be a proud and belittling man. This has long since given way to a more honest, advisory side that still contains his characteristics straight to the point bluntness. The Thai word Sagat means to intercept or to stop something from advancing. It can be interpreted to mean guardian or protector. Sagat is an original, unplayable boss character from the initial Capcom Street Fighter 1 roster. Sagat became playable in upcoming updates of the Street Fighter series. Sagat was a former member of the Shadowloo terrorist organization and personal bodyguard of Bison. Sagat is of tall, muscular build. His height is 7 feet 5 inches. His original gear were purple trunks with yellow trims. He also wrapped his hands and feet. He is the 4th tallest character in the Street Fighter franchise, behind the likes of T.Hawk, Hugo, and Abigail. Sagat was the only character from the initial lineup in Street Fighter that was created by another artist. Sagat's Muay Thai focuses on crushing, hard-hitting blows. He is known for his tiger shot. Sagat gathers chi in his hand and propels his fists together forwards in order to fire a vertical crescent-shaped energy projectile. Sagat also uses the tiger uppercut, known as the multi-hit tiger blow in the Alpha series, an anti-air similar to Ken and Ryu's Shoryuken. Throughout his appearances, the move has become a single-hit attack with increased priority. He possesses the tiger knee as well, which works as an approach and a longer distance punishment. The moves were created by Street Fighter planner Hiroshi Matsumoto. Due to Ryu and Ken being shorter than Sagat, Hiroshi noticed that Sagat's punches and kicks were not hitting them. Since Sagat was the final boss, he created Tiger Shot, a move that can hit Ryu and Ken reliably while beating out their Hadouken. Sagat was born in Thailand, a country in which his Muay Thai style of fighting is very famous. Formerly known as Siam, and officially the Kingdom of Thailand, is a country in Southeast Asia. It is located at the center of the Indo-Chinese peninsula, with a population of over 66 million people. Thailand is bordered to the north by Myanmar and Laos, to the east by Laos and Cambodia, to the south by the Gulf of Thailand and Malaysia, and to the west by the Andaman Sea and the southern extremity of Myanmar. It also shares maritime borders with Vietnam in the Gulf of Thailand to the southeast, and Indonesia and India on the Andaman Sea to the southwest. Bangkok is the nation's capital and largest city. Balrog is a tall African-American boxer with a strong build and a lot of muscle. A white shirt ripped through the middle adorns his blue boxing trunks, and underneath, a blue tank top is worn, wearing red boxing gloves and red boxing shoes. From the time of Street Fighter II release, his short hairstyle is similar to Mike Tyson's. At the time, official artwork also showed him without a canine tooth in the upper right corner of his mouth. Balrog is generally self-centered, irrational, hot-tempered, rude, and sadistic. In addition to displaying an insatiable need for money, the belligerent pugilist also exhibits a vicious, mean streak, often refusing to accept responsibility for his actions. Though he was a prize boxer once, Balrog was known to intentionally cheat in his fights whenever he felt like it. The role of the leader for the organization fell to Balrog upon M.Bison's death from Street Fighter Alpha 3, and the organization collapsed immediately, forcing him to work security at casinos and other places in order to survive. Because of his unruly and delinquent youth, he may not have been able to make impact on other areas of life other than fighting. He dropped out of school in order to gain strength and dominance in the mean streets of his city. During the Street Fighter series, his motivation in joining Shadowloo and M.Bison has always been to attain massive wealth, fame, and glory, so that he can live easy on the streets. So even though Balrog might cheat, steal, or even kill in order to accomplish this goal, he is not evil so much as greedy, and he pays little attention to Shadowloo's affairs. Ed is the only manifestation of empathy and humanity in him, showing that he is even capable of forming relationships, empathy, and friendship. Ed is shown to generally care for him even after they fight and after the latter leaves. Using the single Gigaton punch, he killed Dhalsim's elephant while running errands for Bison. Balrog is seen in Street Fighter 4 with all of his teeth, while in previous games, he lacked a canine tooth on the upper right side of his mouth. This might indicate that Balrog wears a prosthetic tooth in later games. The character Balrog is loosely based on semi-retired boxer Mike Tyson. Michael Gerard Tyson, born June 30th, 1966, is an American former professional boxer who competed from 1985 to 2005. nicknamed Iron Mike and Kid Dynamite in his early career, and later known as the baddest man on the planet. Tyson is considered to be one of the greatest heavyweight boxers of all time. He reigned as the undisputed world heavyweight champion from 1987 to 1990. Tyson won his first 19 professional fights by knockout, 12 of them on the first round, claiming his first belt at 20 years, 4 months and 22 days old. Tyson holds the record as the youngest boxer ever to win a heavyweight title. He was the first heavyweight boxer to simultaneously hold the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles, as well as the only heavyweight to unify them in succession. The following year, Tyson became the lineal champion when he knocked out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds of the first round. Tyson was known for his ferocious and intimidating boxing style, as well as his controversial behavior inside and outside the ring. With a knockout to win percentage of 88%, he was ranked 16th on the Ring magazine's list of 100 greatest punchers of all time, and first on ESPN's list of the hardest hitters in heavyweight history. Sky Sports described him as perhaps the most ferocious fighter to step into a professional ring. He has been inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame. Throughout his childhood, Tyson lived in and around neighborhoods with a high rate of crime. Tyson was repeatedly caught committing petty crimes and fighting those who ridiculed his high-pitched voice and lisp. By the age of 13, he had been arrested 38 times. When Street Fighter II was localized in the United States, Capcom was afraid of a lawsuit from Mike Tyson over a character with his likeness, as well as a similar sounding name, his Japanese name being M.Bison. Additionally, when the designers presented the game to Capcom USA's marketing department, they believed that the name Vega did not fit the character it was given to. They decided to rotate the names of 3 of the 4 boss characters in the following manner. The boxer is known as M.Bison in Japan and Balrog in the US. The Spanish assassin bullfighter is known as Balrog in Japan and Vega in the US. The evil dictator and head of Shadowloo is known as Vega in Japan and M.Bison in the US. In certain illustrations, including ones for the Street Fighter II series, his Japanese name Bison can be seen on the waistband of his trunks, although it is usually removed when these illustrations are published outside of Japan. In later games, the world champion appears in its place. Despite the name change, many of his moves have a bison buffalo theme. Only recently did Mike Tyson learn of the character, stating, "I'm really honored with that impersonation of me." Balrog's mean attitude and overall gameplay has given him the title as one of the most iconic fighters in Street Fighter history. Vega's concept of being a Spanish ninja was not originally in the planning. In the later phases of development, a handful of concepts such as a ninja character, a Thai character, and a Spanish character were left incomplete, to which artist Kayegama was assigned to create. Initially, Vega was meant to be a Thai ninja, but was suddenly told to make a Spanish ninja, in a similar style to the nameless Asura, an antagonist of the Fist of the North Star series, known for his immense agility, distinct mask, bladed weapons, and braided ponytail. Early sketches suggest that Vega was going to resemble a medieval knight wearing a full suit of armor. This idea was scrapped, as Street Fighter was about fighters from all over the world, not from different time periods. There are a few remnants of this concept in Vega's final design, specifically a mask and a sharp metal claw. A similar type of weapon was used in Geki in the original Street Fighter, which has led to speculation that Vega received some training from Geki. Vega is a tall, strikingly handsome young man, with long hair that is braided into a ponytail. His hair has switched between brown, black, and blonde through various Street Fighter media. In the Street Fighter II series, Vega's hair is colored brown in the sprites, but colored blonde in the endings that feature him. The comics give him blonde hair, as do Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Street Fighter V. In Street Fighter 4, Vega has brown hair in both the cutscenes and the gameplay. He wears moire and yellow ceremonial trousers, a red sash, loafers, and white leggings of a matador, suggesting his involvement with bullfighting. This decorative garb offers matadors ease of movement and is therefore ideal for Vega's acrobatic maneuvers. Vega also has a purple snake tattoo on his chest, which circles his left arm, and on his right arm and both his wrists, he wears gold-colored armlets. The tattoo shows him to be a villain to a Japanese audience, where body tattoos are usually worn by Yakuza members. Vega, as we know him in the United States, in Japan his name was Balrog. He is one of the main bosses, originally being an unplayable boss in the Street Fighter II series. Before his update in the Street Fighter II Champion Edition, he is of narcissistic personality, with an obsessive attraction for beauty. Vega is one of M.Bison's personal bodyguards, and is one of the initial 4 Heavenly Kings. The 4 Heavenly Kings consist of M.Bison as a leader, and 3 of his personal bodyguards, from lowest to highest, which are Balrog, Vega, and Sagat. Later in Street Fighter V, Sagat was replaced with Fang, after Sagat's decision to leave the Shadow Loop. Vega was born into a privileged, wealthy family that later in life lost all their fortune. This situation caused his mother to remarry to secure their livelihood. Later on, his mother was killed by his stepfather, believing she was being disrespectful to him. He was killed by Vega in return. Driven into insanity by this incident, he developed a dual personality: honorable nobleman by day, sadistic murderer by night. Vega is vain, overconfident, and highly convinced of his own abilities, almost to the point of megalomania. He is also incredibly sadistic, and takes great pleasure in seeing the ugly murdered, and preferably mutilated. He often has a stone-cold demeanor, and does not show a wide range of emotions. Vega has a white mask that is lacking in facial features or expressions. There is a purple symbol on his mask, the same color as his tattoos. It is difficult to tell how durable his mask is. On one hand, Vega is able to crush it to dust with one hand if he loses due to a time over in Street Fighter Alpha 3. On the other hand, it takes several hits before the mask falls off, and even then, he can easily pick up and reapply the mask, with no apparent lasting damage. Much like Sagat's eye patch in earlier games, Vegas' claw will always appear on whatever arm matches the direction he is facing. If he is looking to the left side of the screen, it will appear on his left arm, and if he is looking right, it will be on his right. Due to sprite mirroring, in the Street Fighter EX series, it will always be on his right arm. In Street Fighter 4, however, he changes his claw every time he switches sides, without mirroring. This can be seen in his tattoo, his accessories, and in the mark on his mask. Curiously enough, during the versus screen, his portrait won't be mirroring all the accessories either, with the unique exception of his claws. In Street Fighter V, Vega retained his claws and red waist sash, but is now wearing a partially open white shirt. His traditional matador pants are now a light blue denim. The purple snake tattoo that encircles his torso can still be partially seen. His alternate costume is an altered version of his outfit. The sleeves of his frill shirts are short, and his signature mask is replaced with a golden opera mask. His blonde hair is tied in a slick back ponytail, with a long single fringe in the center of his head. It is said that his weapon of choice is the bagnak. The bagnak is a fist-load claw-like weapon, originating from the Indian subcontinent, designed to fit over the knuckles or be concealed under and against the palm. It consists of 4 or 5 curved blades, affixed to a crossbar or glove, and is designed to slash through the skin and muscle. It is believed to have been inspired by the armament of big cats, and the term bagnak itself means tiger claws in Hindi. Vega, as stated before, is from Spain. Spain is a country in southwestern Europe, with some pockets of territory in the Mediterranean Sea, offshore in the Atlantic Ocean, and across the Strait of Gibraltar. Its continental European territory is situated in the Iberian Peninsula, and its insular territory includes the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean Sea, several small islands in the Alboran Sea, and the Canary Islands in the Atlantic Ocean. The Spanish territory also includes the African semi-exclaves of Ceuta, Melilla, and Peñón de Vélez. Across the Strait of Gibraltar, the country's mainland is bordered to the south and east by the Mediterranean Sea, to the north by France, Andorra, and the Bay of Biscay, and to the west by Portugal and the Atlantic Ocean. The most destructive character in the Street Fighter universe first made his debut on Super Street Fighter II Turbo, Hyperfighting, on December 1992. Akuma's legacy started there, but its character creation was not brought without thought and planning. Akuma's character was sketched and redesigned multiple times by the Japanese-based video game company Capcom, in which the Street Fighter franchise is in. The Capcom team of graphic designers wanted to make sure to have the perfect character to be in the vessel of the Dark Hado. Since not having much success with its drawings, the Street Fighter Capcom found inspiration on the ends of Buddhism. Akuma's design was based on the Nio, or the Gongorigishi, 2 wrathful statues that guard under a separate temple at the entrance of Japanese Buddhist temples. Each of the statues states a purpose, thus having a meaning in their creation. The right statue that guards the gate of the Buddhist temple is called Mishaku Kongo. It is a symbol of overt violence, with its open mouth and baring teeth. holding a mallet ready to protect with ferocity the entrance to the temple. The left statue that guards the temple is called Narian Gongo. This statue symbolizes strength. It can wield a sword, or it can be barehanded. One of its characteristics is that the statue has its mouth closed, demonstrating serenity and power. The new statue's fierce and threatening look was designed to ward off evil spirits and to keep the temple grounds free of demons and thieves. The irony of the Capcom creators. But nevertheless, we can appreciate the origins of the art and structure of the Street Fighter's Ultimate Fighter. Akuma's fierce looks are just as mean as the arsenal of fighting moves he has in his book. But there is no technique feared by the Street Fighter community, other than his legendary Shungokusatsu, also known as the Wrath of the Raging Demon. The Wrath of the Raging Demon is a very powerful technique, taught in the Assassinations arts, with any martial art developed with the intention of destroying an opponent. This type of technique was taught by Akuma's trainer, Gotetsu. This technique, when performed, while wielding the Dark Hado power, will be submerged in its killing intent, giving its opponent a series of deadly strikes in an instant. Fighters that had used this technique gave into the powers of the Dark Hado, and eventually became consumed by its power, becoming a violent demonic being. Like, for example, Oni, Akuma's evolution form when he becomes one of the Dark Hado. The only character who could resist this technique without giving in was Akuma's trainer Gotetsu. The interesting aspect of the Wrath of a Raging Demon is that its technique is based on karmic forces obtained from the Dark Hado. Its technique punishes its opponent on the merits of the sins and evil the opponent has marked in his soul. In other words, the damage applied when the Wrath of the Raging Demon is applied is not determined by the strength of Akuma's power, it's determined by the opponent's evilness, hurting its opponent as much as he or she deserves. While being powerful, this technique can only be executed on living life forms that possess a soul. The Wrath of the Raging Demon, when executed, lights up Akuma's back with a red fiery kanji symbol. This symbol on Akuma's back has been the character's trademark design, one who fits full to its persona. But what is the meaning of this symbol? What does it state? The symbol located on Akuma's back is the Japanese kanji called ten, that can also be translated as heaven. This kanji, like in most Japanese writings, can mean plenty of things. It can be translated as day, heaven, or invincibility. The kanji on his back is made to reflect immortality at the rate of power, meaning that when the character 10 appears on its back, it's representing immortality. In old Japanese folklore, whenever the kanji with the character 10 appears on someone's forehead, it means the person is immortal. Thus Capcom, taking the idea of modifying it to fit the symbol on the back of Akuma's guy. Pretty interesting fact, considering that Akuma's style and behavior exceeds the capability of other characters in the Street Fighter universe. Akuma's style of technique is indeed a 10. As promised in the beginning of our video, we have a bonus dark secret about Akuma in the Street Fighter universe. You may wonder how someone with amazing ability and strength gets its energy from. The fact is that Akuma is a great martial artist. He is also indeed a human and needs to feed himself from time to time. But what does a character like Akuma eat? In this prequel film, made by a Capcom-approved fan called Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, we can delve inside Akuma's training regimen when he is exiled from his trainer's dojo. We can see in this short how Akuma uses his Hadouken technique to fish by the lake. By hurling Hadoukens to the lake, he can pick up the unconscious fish that floats on the top, making it an easy meal for Akuma. Hadoukens fishing at its finest. Now, thinking about all the power Akuma expels out of his body, I personally think a couple of fish would not replenish his power and stamina. But at least the guy eats healthy. Maybe that's why he does not need that much food to begin with. But indeed, it's a peculiar fact that makes the character more relatable to his human side. After all, even though he is a strong individual, he is still human. Akuma's character in the Street Fighter universe will always be one of intrigue and mystery. A powerful godlike being in which his only objective is to be the strongest in the world, achieve superhuman strength, power and status, and to rain terror on any challenger that opposes him. Akuma's legacy to push the boundaries of inner power and display it in the battle arena is what makes this character so amazing. Personally, and to most of the viewers, its favorite character in the Street Fighter saga. The Dark Hado Master himself has secrets in his name that fills the very existence of its personality. We have shown the other side of the mysterious character from the Street Fighter verse. In this video, we have learned some of Akuma's most notorious dark secrets, from its character design origins to the power of the wrath of the raging demon, and how it can be lethal with its murder intent. We have described the meaning behind Akuma's red fiery kanji symbol on the back of his guy, and even found out how he managed to feed himself by using the Hadouken fishing technique. Which one is your favorite Street Fighter 2 character? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date on new theories and info. Thank you for watching. Welcome to the center stage.